G'day team. Today we are going to be looking at establishing KPIs so that we can have a better informed understanding of our company performance, and it enables us to establish where our North Star is, which is not what we're going to be doing today as far as mission goes, but we want to know where our mission is, and we're going to use the KPIs in order to be able to track our progress on a monthly basis to get to that mission. So if you haven't set your mission already, there is another workshop on that. But for the purpose of today, let's jump straight in and look at our economic engine, our core business departments, and how we can extract KPIs in order for you to have some takeaways straight away today, to run into your business to see how you are performing at this current point in time. And you can also backdate them to see some run rates, or to see how your performance has been throughout different periods in time. So for the purpose of today, let's look at an example. And I want to look at an example based on this is the hypothetical mission that we want to get to. We want to do $2 million by end of financial year. Now, pretty good mission, really. If you're somewhere below that, fantastic. We're going to be working towards this for the example today, because the figures are pretty whole. We're going to use some round numbers to make my math a little bit easier. If you're already doing 2, obviously just double the sums out. If you're doing 1, half the sums down. And I need you as well to open up your Xero file and also open up your job management system so that we can extract some data from it. So I'll pause for a moment for you there and let you do that. And you can pause the video down below. And once you've got those open and you're all logged in, we're going to jump straight in. Firstly, visit our business model, and then we're going to extract some KPIs from that so that you can make sure that you are achieving what you need to achieve on a monthly basis to achieve the mission. So we've got Xero and we've got our job management system open in a couple of tabs. Let's look at our economic engine. We have got our strategy being $2 million, $2 million by FY, but let's just leave this there. We need marketing, sales, ops, people, and finance. That's our business model, the economic engine. We talk about this quite a bit. It formulates a lot of the discussions the tool that we use to start a lot of discussions. So today, as far as KPIs go, we need to know what are the data points that we're going to be looking for in marketing, in sales, in ops, in people and finance to formulate a cohesive picture so that we can make sure that we're achieving targets, and we can also start to assign out some responsibility to different people in the team, whether they're leading hands, whether they're project managers, administration, that kind of thing. But we'll talk about the accountability component after. Let's extract the data straight away. So we will need to address marketing first. Just prior to that, for the purpose of whole sums, we're going to be basing on a flatline revenue. What I mean by that is we're just going to use our sums based on 160K, which is $2 million divided by 12. 160K flatline. Obviously, there's ebbs and flows throughout the financial year. I'll let you use your forecast, which is another workshop. I'll let you use your forecast to decipher exactly how these ebbs and flows go. But for the purpose of keeping math simple, we're going to run with a straight 160K per month revenue target, which over the space of 12 months equals just about $2 million. So let's have a look quickly. We are going to go marketing, sales, ops, people, finance. But first, in marketing, in order for us to achieve 160K, we need to get a certain amount of attention and increase attention from where we are at the moment. So I know I'm going to get some conflict saying this with you now. I need you to open Xero and go to your management report, and we're going to extract out your average invoice value. And the reason we're looking at your average invoice value is because it's something in the management report, it automatically pulls it for us. so that we don't have to do any calculations. It's always there on hand. If you are doing projects that span out over a larger period of time, then you're going to be doing weekly or monthly or weekly, fortnightly, monthly progress claims, depending on who the client is. Generally, that'd be commercial builders or some residential projects as well. And by using the average invoice value, we're taking some of those larger projects and end up chunking them down into a bit smaller. So for the purpose of keeping the sums really simple, you can use your average job value, you can use your average sale value, you can use your average whatever value, but for the purpose of today, I want us to look at our average invoice value because it is easily available for us. So in marketing, you're going to go to the management report, and that's in Xero. That's under, if you go to business reports, it's about halfway down, called the management report. Pause the video now if you need to locate that. Once you do, we need to get out your average invoice value. And if you have some discrepancies about whether that is the right target to shoot, just watch the video. We'll see whether there can be some refining components to it. And if you have some feedback for me on it as well as to what worked for your company, let me know. But I like average invoice value because it's already calculated. Now, let's just assume you've had a look, you've seen what your average invoice value. Let's just assume the average invoice value is 10K. And this will be 10K, or the average invoice value based over this month and last month. You can span out the average further if you want. This gives us a target to look at because this will inform us that if we need to achieve 160K a month, this means that we need to do 16 invoices, 16 jobs. 16 is the lucky number that we've extracted here. So if we are doing 80K at the moment, if you're on a run rate for $1 million, your average number of jobs or your average invoices sent would be 8. It may vary a little bit, smaller, larger jobs, but we need to drive that up to 16. So what we need to do is get to the point where we are attracting enough attention in order to drive 16 invoices or 16 one jobs. This gives us a bit of a marker to work towards as to if our current position is 8 and our target KPI is 16, then we need to double whatever effort we're doing, if not more, in order to achieve that faster. So as we start to draw out each section of KPIs, we will start to see and elaborate further on them as to how they work together and how they intertwine with each other. So next up, we've got sales. And in sales, I want you to draw from the management report as well. Your average, we've got our average invoice value. In sales, sorry, not our average. This is from your job management system. I want you to draw out your quotes sent. That's your number of quotes sent. And I want you to draw out your number of quotes won. This will then inform us of how many quotes we have to send in order to win a quote. And you may find that in order for 16 quotes to be won, so if that was the lucky number of 16, and we had to send 32 quotes to get there, then we would know that our conversion rate, is 50%. See, I'm keeping the sums quite whole here. Obviously, you're going to be getting an exact percentage and you're going to have to use a calculator to work it out. But what we're extracting out here is how many leads do we need to get based on our closing rate. So you can see how sales and marketing are very intertwined together. But from the sales component, we could work out that, well, if we can increase our number of quotes won, then we wouldn't need to increase any more leads. So that's why this sits as a sales component. Now, if we're jumping down marketing, sales, ops, we need to make sure that if we're going to be doing 160K per month, there are some components in operations that we need to make sure that remain constant, because we can do heaps of marketing efforts and heaps of sales efforts, but if we don't maintain our efficiency and we don't maintain our customer satisfaction, then we're going to run into some serious issues based on profitability and brand. So under ops, we need to make sure that we are managing gross profit, and we also need to make sure that we're managing customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction, very broad term, but we need to be getting some feedback from our clients so that as we scale up, we make sure that our reputation stays the same. So we're going to jump into this in a sec. We're going to open up Xero. We're going to have a look at our profit and loss. And I want you to make sure that when you're looking at your profit and loss, I'm actually going to draw this out here for you. When you're looking at your profit and loss, we want to have revenue. Revenue will sit over there. We want to have cost of goods sold. And under cost of goods sold should be wages and materials. If your wages sit entirely down here under OPEX, then they need to be moved up into your cost of goods sold. Now, you can have two wages line items if you're completely off the tools and you've got admin, even if you've got project managers and that. The non-billable guys need to stay down in OPEX, and the billable guys need to be put up in COGS, and you can do that as a manual journal entry. But for the purpose of looking at gross profit, we need to make sure that the majority of wages and all of materials are accounted for in your cost of sales. That will enable us to draw out the right gross profit dollar value and also the right gross profit margin. So I need you to have a look at your profit and loss. Can you please add, so profit and loss for last month, not this month. We want to make sure that it's a closed out month. Have a look at last month versus like 4 or 6 or 12 periods. We want to, and also turn on the percentage of trading income so that we can see gross profit margin. And I want you to draw out the average. I'm going to assume here that the average gross profit margin is 40%. This then gives us a marker to know that we are maintaining our efficiency, because as we go from where we are now with the 80K mark up to 160, we want to make sure that this stays the same or starts to increase. If it starts to increase, there's only two ways, or if it fluctuates, there's only two ways it can happen. It's either quoting is not correct, whether we fucked up jobs, or whether we need to increase our margin, and then our efficiency, how well the guys are going on site, or whether we had fuck ups on site. So there's really only two components that can come into gross profit, but it's really important for us to track it. And then customer satisfaction, it's going to be really hard to get reviews and feedback from our clients, being residential, commercial builders and other commercial clients. But what I've found is a very handy way to do is to put in a scale. And we can have in this scale a response. So this is going to be a phone call, as you would to follow up with a client, to close off the job, to finish off the job. If they respond with, yep, everything's great, no issues, you could assign that 100%. If they followed up and said, yes, but, then we know that we could assign them, 75%. If they followed up with a, well, this, and this, then we could give them a 50%. And the reason I haven't got a 25% mark here is because we really should only be sitting between the 75 and 100%. If you are sitting back down below here, then you need to really stop scaling and fix some of those internal issues, because that customer or that kind of reputation is going to absolutely kill the brand. So I think it goes without saying as well, the last guy on here is super angry, very upset. We know when we fuck up a job and we can score it a 0, but this is a way that you don't have to ask a client for a score. You can base your customer satisfaction score on the feedback that they give to you. And you might want to put this into like, into a Google Sheet, or if you're using like a Tradeify or ServiceMate, you could record it in the job itself, but probably a Google Sheet's pretty handy for everybody to collaborate on as well, just to record your customer satisfaction. So these are two components that they are KPIs to ensure that the way the company operates, the operational component, remains the same as we scale. So we've got ops. We touched on how to report on gross profit properly as well. We need to now look at people. So a KPI here in people, there's kind of two components to it. There's one that's more managerial based, and then there's other one that's more holistic for the whole team. So firstly, we're going to be looking at a KPI of our recruit timeline. This essentially says it's going to be how fast can we onboard. And you're going to have a calendar written out, and you'll have your recruit calendar will be, higher qualified, higher apprentice. And the game here, or the target, is, as far as a KPI goes, it will be, time to onboard, and it could be starting at 8 weeks. We want to drive that down. We want to be working on things. And this is where we talk about like working on the business, not in it. And then what do you actually need to do? There are a lot of things that can be done on the back end as far as like online trainings and checklists and workbooks and education for our team internally to be able to get them from zero to hero really fast. And the sooner we can get people up to speed, the faster we can recruit people, which means the faster we can keep up with revenue growth. So for our KPI that we're looking at for people, recruit timeline is definitely something to consider. And last part, finance. There are a couple components here in finance as well. Now, sorry, I did say that there was two in people. The secondary one is employee satisfaction. You can do that through the same way we did customer satisfaction, or you can actually just create like a survey that you do quarterly with your team. But I'll let you work out what the best way is to do employee satisfaction, because it's not really a component that I'm worried about just yet when it comes to scaling the business. That's more of a retention component, which we go into super deep in a different workshop. Now, finance. There are two really important drivers here that pull everything together, and our financial forecast is one of the tools we use to manage this, but revenue and net profit, or EBITDA. But I'm not going to go into EBITDA just yet, because let's just focus on net profit. It's a much more simple term for us to understand, but we want to make sure that revenue and net profit targets are hit, are achieved or exceeded, because that is the truest measure of how fast we're growing, how well we're growing, and what is left over at the end. Because if we're going through the process of building our business and building our lifestyle empire, the main component is our net profit mark. Everything else prior to this ensures that our net profit mark is there. So, firstly, we need our revenue target, which we've said earlier is 160K per month. And then we need our net profit target. So you're going to go back into the example, and let's just pull, sorry, I didn't show that up for you. We've got revenue, 160K, net profit. We need to establish what that is. If we scroll back up to our little makeshift profit and loss here, our net profit mark sits here, our net profit margin, and this is going to be what's left over after all's said and done. Now, the way that we can toy with this, or the way that we can improve this to drive our net profit margin up is through managing our operating expenses. Now, you can certainly increase gross profit by increasing your prices, increasing your efficiency, using less materials, getting better suppliers. All of those things are going to make some great difference. But the main area that I see a lot of people slipping up is through their operating expenses, through the other things that you spend money on that aren't directly related to the delivering of the service itself. So this is usually your take-home income, the silly cars you've bought, the meals that you go out for, running subscriptions from home through the business, all of those kind of things are really going to kill that operating expense mark, which comes straight out of your net profit. So I'm very passionate about keeping our operating expenses under control. So I want to draw back into what our KPIs are based on the conversation that we've had today. So we're going, our target mission strategy is $2 million by end of financial year. Now, in order to achieve that, our marketing goal needs to be 16 jobs, 16 invoices per month as our primary, and our secondary is a minimum of 10K per invoice, or minimum 10K average invoice value. For sales, let's get rid of that, sales, we extracted out that we need to send 32 quotes if our close rate is a 50% close rate or conversion rate, whichever you prefer. Sales, marketing, ops, we need to maintain a gross profit of 40% and a customer sat of whatever you determine is right for your company. And you will only be able to find that out once you start doing it. Then we've got people. Our KPI for people is how long it takes to get somebody onboarded, being 8 weeks in this example. And then we want to drive that down. The faster we can get people onboarded and up to speed, the faster we can grow and achieve our revenue targets. And then finance. Secondly on people as well is employee satisfaction, and you will establish what that target is. And then finance, we've got our revenue, which is, in this example, 160K. And then our net profit mark, which I'm just going to throw out there and assume is going to be 10%. If you're shooting for $2 million, generally 10% minimum, and we want to make sure that we're driving that up as well. I hope that gives you a good understanding of how to extract those KPIs, how to, just a final, a bonus section on how to maintain this and roll this out with your team is through a governance meeting where you segment the meeting into, this is a monthly meeting. You can call it monthly managers. And we do a workshop on this anyway, but effectively you're segmenting it into an overview. So you'll lead the meeting with an overview, a performance update, and then you'll go through each section, marketing, sales, ops, etc. And you'll have some information on what happened in ops, and then you'll have a table for your KPIs, and that'll follow the same component, follow the same layout. So that's how you would typically implement the KPIs with your team. I wouldn't worry about bringing billable guys, as in technicians, trades, and apprentices into a monthly governance. This is more for managers. So if it's just you in the manager's seat at the moment, then you just run this with yourself. It's going to feel pretty silly, I know, to run that with yourself. But it gets you in the habit of doing it. And then as you bring in admin, and then as you bring in the project manager role to fill your shoes, you'll be in a good rhythm of doing this. And it also is a good reminder for you to see the data points that you're actually working with. So that's KPIs. That is how to extract them from your business, how to implement them in, and also how to start to involve the other team members in achieving the goals within the business.